Up that ladder.
Stop! Life was not always like this. Let's rewind a little.
Where the fuck is bringing it?
It used to be a lot more hectic and chaotic in the start. In the beginning, this Sony Europe studio, their biggest, was merged with the key behind the groundbreaking and still incredible The Getaway series. Focused on the cockney gangster Michael Caine come London heist affair, it followed a very popular and stereotyped affair. Wide boy attitudes, rhyming, slang and expletives aplenty were the order of the day. The VR is the new craze, and Sony are at the forefront in pushing this forward with a cascade of titles I've covered previously, including this very team's last entry in VR Worlds. VR is already starting to offer a revolutionary experience, resetting the gaming landscape to the 8-bit era. This latest AAA blockbuster is the VR equal of a single-player scripted linear action fest, with high production values, dramatic acting, awesome set pieces, and a level of polish largely associated with high-caliber first-party games. But is there more to the story than chatting shit and taking names? Well, let's find out. The bloody truth. Shooting is one of the oldest elements in games. Right back to the 8-bit days on the Atari, the Spectrum or the Master System, we could take aim at the enemy in dot form. These light guns were designed around our old CRT sets. Those forms continued right through to the 6th gen era, from classics such as the Virtual Cop series on the Saturn or arcades to the Namco arcade and PlayStation Smash Time Crisis. They delivered frenetic action, high quality visuals and intuitive gameplay that really showed off the best possibilities of the host hardware. Being on rails, it reduced the cost on the machines and allowed a specific delivery and pacing of action. Blood&Truth is a modern equivalent of this legacy, replacing light sensors with, well, more light sensors, but it keeps a close lock on those arcade hits with a far more engaging, dramatic and impressive package. Being a fixed path of trajectory is nothing new, and here with Blood&Truth the formula is similar to those and other shooters such as Panzer Dragoon or Sylphied I covered recently in my Mega CD videos. And just like those games on their respective formats, it enabled the developers to push the most from the platforms, and here London studios have strived for the same benchmark quality with the high demands and finite power of the PS4 and the Pro consoles within those VR demands. As always, I do my level best to demonstrate the quality and immersion here, but only playing first hand in genuine 3D can you fully understand the quality here. Before we get into the game, let's look at the comparison between these two mighty consoles and just what they deliver to that shiny little headset.
Come out to the coast, we'll get together, have a few laughs. I know what a TV dinner feels like.
First up is the base console, and the PlayStation 4 delivers a very impressive and visually compelling title in the VR headset, and it is pretty impressive overall, pushing way beyond the 720p output of the static VR breakout box. Here I am only capped at 1080p, but this game comes in around 1536 by 864 in all my counts. Now there are points where it looks dynamic and it might dip down, and it looks like it's scaling on the vertical, not the horizontal axis if it is changing, but with the TAA in the game itself, it might also be just that, stretching the image out and affecting the counts. Overall, it appears to be much closer to that level. Like I say, around 800p thereabouts is the resolution I'm getting. And again, like all versions on the PS4 and the PS4 Pro, it outputs at 120Hz to the headset, with that interpolation or the time motion with your headset moving around at 120Hz, but the actual game loop the engine, the rendering and the locomotion through the game itself is running at 60. This is like pretty much every title I've ever tested on the PS4 VR, so this isn't really a game changer here, and it feels very smooth, responsive with no issues at all in terms of performance, as you would expect, and a beautiful looking game, albeit with that slight shimmer and softness to the image that we've come to expect now in the PSVR headset, both from the headset itself and also the limited capabilities of the PS4 pushing out into these VR worlds. Now moving over to the Pro, this obviously increases it quite significantly, pushing above 1080p, which is the limit I'm capped out at, but again it uses a better version of that temporal AA to re-accumulate the image and improve the quality and catch out those shimmery edges and specular editing across the title. It is cleaner and more stable than the base model, and when you're playing the game it looks much better when you're flipping between the two. There isn't much of a difference between the visuals themselves. There are some other effects. Some of the alpha effects explosions are either much higher resolution on the Pro or missing entirely, such as the specular you can see on the screen here on the glass, which is missing on the PS4 but present on the Pro. This may be down to the fact that it's a slight bug, but more than likely it is the fact that they've cut back some of these elements because it does help some of the bandwidth and restrictions which both consoles suffer from, especially in this high demanded VR world. The only other minor change is texture filtering on oblique angles is better on the Pro than the base, and obviously the bitmap levels are slightly sharper further away than they are on the base model, but it is a minor upgrade, but it is there if you are looking.
I'm a businessman, and like all good businessmen, I like to seek out new opportunities.
I've just buried my husband.
Yeah, I know. And it's a terrible thing. But like I said, new opportunities. The thing is, it's very difficult getting you all together. And my offer is for the whole family.
Yeah, can we hurry this up, Tone? I've got a date tonight.
You open your fucking mouth again, and I'm gonna put a bullet through her face.
What is it you want?
Is that the best you can do?
In terms of visual quality overall, it's a gorgeous looking game, as you can see. Character models are highly detailed, exceptionally well animated, using motion capture and facial capture throughout the game itself. It looks brilliant to watch up close, and you get many moments in the title where you are just part of a cast member playing in and out of these interactive scenes. The restriction there is obviously you're just a disembodied pair of hands, and obviously some of these sequences can linger on, so playing around with your hand gestures is obviously a given here, as boredom will set in. Now, even though the game is going out for an all-action B-movie or A-movie action fest from one set piece and action moment to the next, some of these sequences are quite long and protracted, so you do get moments where they could be a little shorter, and they almost feel like stage shows the way they fade out into the next scene. Some of the blending and cuts between the two could have been much better, as it can break you out, but it hides the loading very well between sections, and again it does work to add more immersion, and at least you are up close and personal in those acting sections. The much better sections actually play out in the games themselves, on rail sections throughout. You can't freely walk around the game, only moving from moment to moment, which sounds worse and quite poor, but actually when you're playing the game it makes more sense, because you can just choose to flip back and forth between cover points, move forward, move back. You can't go backwards on your trajectory through levels unless of course you're climbing, and then you're able to go back across your trajectory, but there's hardly any point to do that other than to get back to a dropped area or maybe a missed section of bonuses throughout the title. It does work well, and the pacing is excellent. It breaks up combat, stealth, full-on action, puzzles, conversations, and then other elements in the game, like I say, the traversal system, and then you get used to using all of the weapons, and that's the main point here. It uses the motion controllers the best I've ever used in a game so far. It really brings you into the game by having to get used to your hand motion, picking things up, reloading, flipping things around, and then the skill set that goes alongside that. Using your fingers to spin the gun and then shoot people mid-spin. You can even throw cartridges in the air and then catch them back into your gun in a cool bullet time John Woo style fashion. And all of these elements really bring that immersion level into the game. Once you get to a point where you traverse through a level, shoot people multiple times, climb up a tower, climb through an air vent, and then come out the other side, from stealthing through rainy streets or even going straight into a DJ dance floor with decks spinning and pyrotechnics flowing whilst killing everyone that comes at you, John Wick style. It knows what it's trying to do, and it does it well.
What's that music? It's coming from the club. Attention, all security personnel. Redirect to nightclub immediately.
That got their attention.
Requesting urgent assistance. Repeat, urgent assistance.
Then let's make some noise!
It's a great game, an enjoyable game to play, really bringing me back, like I've said many times before, to the arcade games of late. It's all about the experience, not as much about the length of the game and the immersion. I do think some of the acting is too long, like I say, but that's my only real gripe. Aside one, which is it does support the DualShock controller, so you can play this without the motion controllers, but please, for the love of God, buy them if you don't and you buy this game, because with the motion controllers it works brilliantly. It does have issues, sometimes reloading doesn't work, like all VR games. It's one of the limitations of the PSVR. It doesn't track you very well, but the DualShocks are not unplayable, but it's very awkward. You're locked to your hands being stuck together. You can't dual wield in any way, shape or form compared to what you can do with the dual motion controllers. Puzzles are harder, and just even reloading or picking things up is harder, and just getting through the game itself is much harder and less enjoyable because it limits your ability and your interaction in the world. So if you are going to play this game, I recommend above all else buy the motion controllers. You need them. You can use all these elements in the game, like holding dual guns, aiming down scopes, bringing it up to your eye, climbing. Everything mixes and flows beautifully throughout the title, and that's its biggest win. It is short. It's around 4 hours, 5 hours I think it took me to finish the game, so it's not a long game, but it is an enjoyable one. There's a speed trial in there, so you can go back and play the missions, and then you can play any mission you want throughout and just jump straight to those favourite sections in the title. It uses the set piece well, bringing some of them into action, flowing them through combat, and then flowing them back out again into puzzles. It's got a decent story. It's not going to win any awards, and the acting is quite cheesy and low-key, but again, it's fun, and it's something that will suck your time. Sound design and sound production is impeccable, carrying over that influence of Hollywood action movies. It sounds as good as it looks, in fact, even better. Binaural sound design, you can pinpoint where enemies are, gunshots, ricochets, screams, music, the dialogue, the swearing, the banter mid-combat as they're yelling at you as the soldier or other elements just to get you enticed and suck you back into battle. It really is an impeccable delivery on post-processing delivery, and it sounds as good as it looks, and it looks as good as it sounds. I'll cover visuals in a moment, but take a listen to all those little elements, such as grabbing the drain pipe as you're climbing up. Everything sounds beautiful.
Michelle, get your C4 planted. You remember how I taught you?
Of course. Placing the charge.
Yep.
Inserting the detonator.
Yep, good. Careful.
Press the red button. Okay, it's armed.
Nice one. Now get out of there.
Okay, I'm heading to the car. Ryan, be careful.
Why'd they clear everyone out? Just another false alarm.
Regulations. Tony likes it done by the book.
Then why let Keach run the place? Slimy bastard.
Maybe, but he's not stupid. Let's finish off the search.
For the Marks crew! Yes! Whoa. Oh, that is good though, you've got to admit.
Yeah, that is pretty impressive.
Right, come on then, we've got a job to do.
We don't know who we're dealing with.
She's dealing with us, Blood. Needs to show more respect. Know what I mean?
Mum.
Ryan, tell me you found her.
Yeah, she's nearby. Just got a few more of these fuckers to deal with. Shoot the catch.
In terms of the engine itself, it's pushing quite a lot. Now, it does say it's using its own engine, but obviously the original titles were using Unreal Engine, the VR world, so this might still be an Unreal Engine, but according to London Studio, it is its own engine, so I can't vouch specifically what that is because they haven't released much detail, at least I haven't seen it. But it has all of the elements you want, physically based rendering, motion capture in there, it's got volumetric light sources, lots of dynamic light sources, shadow casting light sources, excellent use of subsurface scattering both on skin, normally the hands and the faces of the characters in the game, and also penetrating subsurface of the fingertips of your hand, which obviously is a big part of the game. They've spent a lot of time making these some of the best hands I've seen in games. The veins, the skin pores, and obviously putting your hands up against light sources, you get that pinky fingertip look, which again is a standard solution, but it looks excellent in use, and because you spend so long looking at it, it's a nice touch. It really mixes the elements up. It's got destruction, physics, it's got interaction with the world, so all of those elements really deliver. With such limited capabilities as a console, it really is an impressive looking title. You can still move freely with your head, and obviously it's rendering the game just like any other game, so it's not giving a huge amount back due to the fact that it's a fixed on rails shooter. No, indeed, most of the gains are coming from the fact the team can control where you look, where you sit, the view and the angles, and it breaks the immersion far less when they can take you through this game, and it lowers that sickness level, of which this game is incredibly good. In fact, the only issues I got with the game is that VR hand-brain connection you get when you come out, where your hands don't feel like your hands. Anyone that's played VR for as long as I have now knows that feeling where you feel disconnected for an hour or so once you come out of the game. And again, I whacked up an hour in one session on this, which is the longest I tend to do in VR, and that is always a testament to me how good a game is when it sucks you in. The visual quality overall is impeccable. Again, that control there, so the texture quality, the materials, they're all controlled. The lighting, the volumetrics, the shadow casting, and the overall fixed control of the lighting and the construction allows them to tailor every element specifically to the desired aims. This is exactly the kind of games we used to play on older generations, things like Uncharted or Gears of War, where you were blown away by the visual quality. This is literally those types of games just emerging in the VR format. There's lots more to come and lots more elements, but this is a great playthrough in terms of an arcade blaster for VR. Everyone can have a go, and that tactile element that the whole game uses is one of its biggest strengths. Using the move controllers to reload with two guns at once, or even picking up guns and using them differently. Here you can see me using the revolver. You put your hand over the top and you actually speed up the firing pin to actually shoot faster like an old cowboy. Every single part of the game has been designed and elemented around the whole control system, and it works beautifully to really pull you in and you feel like a badass. It's certainly got aspirations to a James Bond title. Maybe the team are working on a James Bond title in the future for the new Bond movie, or maybe this was the title that was going to do a Bond movie in VR and the license fell through. Either way, there's certainly feelings here of a combination between a Jason Statham movie and a James Bond one. It is a cracking game to play and enjoyable across the board. There are a few bugs and issues obviously, but it really is a modern day equivalent of that game I started this video with, which is Time Crisis, a fast-paced action title that took that on-rails element and added a slight twist to it with a little bit of control to peek out and take your shots as needed. The same element is used here, but far more intuitive because it's just your body movement. It's very enjoyable and it really does give you some of those moments where you just laugh and how cool you look and you feel like a badass, even though you're sitting in your chair looking like a complete pleb with a big bright helmet on your head. For the £30 cost, or around $45 I think it is, it's well worth the money. Some may bemoan the fact that that's high for what you get, but for me, that's perfect value for money, and I'll be playing this again and again just to pass the time and have a laugh. And my kids, some of the footage you've seen here is them playing it as well, they're also big fans because it's just a barrel of fun. But just be aware of the language of the game. It's very British, it's very gangster, therefore it's very colourful. Anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this look at another VR title on the PS4. If you do like this or anything else that I put together, please like, subscribe and share where appropriate. It really helps me to get my numbers up, and leave all your comments below. Unfortunately, I do have a very busy life. This is something I do on the side, so I do only tend to comment as often as I can. Unfortunately, I tend to put up a video and then literally shoot off to work again for the following week. I don't really get much time in the evenings at the moment on the project I'm working on, but hopefully that will come to an end very soon and I'll be on something a little less full speed, and maybe I'll get back to having something a little more regular in terms of my videos. But for now, this is at least a long one and hopefully an enjoyable one. I'll see you on the next one.